everyone.
Hello,
I'm Shirley.
I'm Marika.
We wanted to jump on today. One of the things that we find all the time when we're talking about bottling and canning is the question of which technique do you use. So we advocate the Fowler's process, which is the process that we prefer.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know the difference, then that can be a confusing conversation. So
Very
we thought we would jump on today to talk you through what your options are in terms of how to bottle produce. So we've done up this little
Graphic.
Now this will be available on our website, so you will be able to refer back to this. And this talks you through the 3 different types of processes. So the first one is, well actually before we do that, so the reason you want the right process is because some ingredients can be dangerous at shelf stable temperature, like ambient room temperature.
Yep.
So you need to know the ingredients and you need to know which process works for which ingredient. So it's about making sure you've got the right ingredients, that you're using the right process, and that you're processing for the right amount of time. And then if you follow those 3 very simple rules, you will always have food safe product.
Which is the aim of the game, really.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're spending all this time and effort putting things into a jar, only to find that you've used the wrong method and that they're not safe for you to use.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're using the right method
Yeah.
and the right ingredients.
The reason food safety is important is because you cannot smell or taste pathogens like botulism or salmonella. And in this day and age, we've got a lot of people in our community who are immune compromised, even members of your own family who might be immune compromised. Yeah. And for them, a dose of salmonella or botulism could indeed be fatal.
That's right.
And because we like to share our produce, we like to share our bottled goods, we like to make sure that the things that we're giving away are safe. That we're not going to make anyone
that's
sick.
right. Exactly.
So we'll start at the top of the tree. So the very first technique, and this is a technique that was very, very popular when our grandmothers were making jams and sauces and chutneys. It's called a hot pack. Now this is where you're packing a hot ingredient directly into a hot jar. Now this technique is only suitable if you're using an ingredient that is really, really high in preservative. So a jam that is full of sugar, so like equal weights of sugar to jam, or to sugar to fruit.
Yeah, equal.
So really high in preservatives, chutneys, relishes, sauces, particularly pickled vegetables. So if you're in a full pickle solution, like a full vinegar solution, and things like salted lemons, although you don't hot pack those, but that's a really high preservative environment.
Yeah.
So you would do something like a jam.
Into a jar like that. So with a hot pack, you're sterilising your jars first, so your jars are hot. So you may have put them in the oven or run them through the dishwasher so they're hot, and then you're bottling your hot jam straight into the hot jar. So juggling all of that, and then putting the lid on straight away, and that's what is called a hot pack. So it's hot and in. So
and the lid will seal as the jar cools. The lid will seal. You are creating a seal, but you're not creating a vacuum. Like you're not creating an anaerobic environment. You're only creating a seal, which is the difference.
That is the difference. So this process has worked very well for things like Shirley said, full sugar jams, things like pickled cucumbers, where this is all vinegar. Yeah. So you're putting it into a hot jar and sealing. So those kind of things work well, and like you said, the salted lemons as well, because it's all salt. Yeah. Where you can come unstuck a little bit, and why it's not our favourite method to do anymore. One is you're dealing with stuff that's hot. Yeah. So the jar is hot, the jam is hot, everything is hot.
So you've got gloves on, you're trying to ladle.
And hot jam really burns. So
hot mess.
Yeah, it's
recipe
hot.
For hot mess.
So we don't really like to use it much because it is tricky. It can be dangerous, especially for younger people who are just starting out, kids and stuff. Hot jam, hot jars, really, not so good. Also, I guess our palates are changing and people want to reduce the amount of sugar in things. So people don't want to make a full sugar jam. They don't want to use a kilo of raspberries and a kilo of sugar. They may want to tweak that a little bit. They might want to be using, half a kilo, 50% ratio. When you get playing around with those kind of things, you can't be guaranteed that the sugar is going to do its job as a preservative. So then there's other options besides hot pack. hot pack is also no longer considered to be the best practice.
Especially if you're giving your jars away. If you're going to share your bottled produce, then we highly recommend that you do a water bath rather than a hot pack.
People will say, well, the hot pack, I've created a seal. Yes, you've created a seal, but you haven't expelled any air. So any air that was still in this jar when you put the lid on, and most of them will have a headspace, is still in there. So you haven't removed the air, so the air isn't sterile either. So there's always that chance that things will spoil as it goes along.
Yeah.
And as soon as you touch the jar, or when you're putting the lid on, or you're putting the jam in, the jar's no longer sterile.
Yeah.
It's not a sterile process.
The chances are low.
Yeah.
But the chance still exists.
Yes.
So yeah.
So that's what we would know as a hot pack.
Yeah.
And lots of people still do that for tomato sauces, Worcester sauces, all of those kind of things.
And the reality is, in your kitchen, you get to choose what it is you do. There are no preserving police. No one's going to bash the door down and tell you that you're doing it wrong. We're simply providing the information so that you can make the choice about what works best for you.
Yeah.
So the next step up from a hot pack is a water bath. Now, there's lots of different types of water bath. So the most popular one, or the one that most people know in Australia, is called Fowler's, which technically is a slow sterilisation rather than a water bath.
That's right.
Now, Fowler's is where you're packing room temperature ingredients into room temperature jars, and they go into room temperature water.
And you'd be familiar with this kind of...
And then there's specific processing instructions depending on what type of unit you've got. Now, if you would like to learn more about the Fowler's technique of bottling, which is the technique that we prefer,
use at home,
it gives great results and it's easy to do, then jump across onto our on-demand video where we'll step you through that process. The next option in water bath is called a boiling water bath. Now, if you're familiar with the Ball system, this is what they use. So it's where you're putting hot ingredients into hot jars, which then go straight into boiling hot water. So you can do it with a big pot on the stove, put a folded tea towel or a rack or something at the bottom so that you don't have direct heat on the jars.
That's right.
You can pack your hot jam into your hot jars and then put your hot jars straight into the boiling hot water. You process for 10 minutes. You take them out, allow them to cool. And as they cool, they will form a vacuum.
And you've pushed the air out in that process.
And you've expelled the air out of the jar. So now you've got something that is food safe and that will last on a shelf for an extended period of time.
So Ball have lots of timings for different things. So it's still all high acid foods, by the way. It's still all in the water bath. It is still high acid foods.
High acid foods. Now, when we say high acid, we mean typically fruit and pickled vegetables. So vegetables that are pickled in a minimum of a 50% vinegar solution. So that's a high acid environment. No animal products, no meat products, no low acid ingredients like beans, plain vegetables. Not safe.
It's all
not safe in a water bath.
Stuff. So of course, Ball have timings for all of theirs. We just talked about jam at 10 minutes, but things like fruit and pickled vegetables, the timing is different, and it's based on the size of the jar. Also in that process. And Fowler's is similar. In that there are timings based on jars, but everything is processed at the same time with the Fowler's method. It's slightly different with the boiling water bath. They have their own.
And Fowler's doesn't boil.
No, that's right. That's the difference.
The other technique that you might come across in Australia is a system called Vapex. Now that works really well as well. That's steam canning or steam bottling. So it works the same way. It's a large unit. You put a volume of water in the bottom, you bring it to boiling, it creates steam and pressure, and in doing so creates a vacuum inside the jar. If you've got a Vapex unit, they work really, really well, and it's definitely an option.
That's right.
Yes. So we've got hot pack, water bath, which is high acid ingredients. So hot pack is high preservative. Water bath is high acid. And then if you want to go to low acid and animal products, then you need to go right to the top of the preserving tree, which is a pressure canner. Now, pressure canning is very different again. A pressure canner is not a pressure cooker. So this is a pressure canner. So you can see it's quite big. It's got a pressure gauge and little weights. So it's determined by, and the weights that you use are determined by your altitude. Pressure canning works because it brings the ingredients to hotter than boiling point. So water bath can only get to 100 degrees. It can only get to a boiling point.
Boiling temperature of water.
Whereas a pressure canner, because you're creating negative vacuum inside the vessel, you can bring it to above boiling, and that will kill botulism spores and salmonella.
Yeah.
Which is why you can use that for low acid
foods.
ingredients.
That's right. So pressure canning allows you to do a whole lot of different things. So you can process meat, you can process beans, legumes,
animal products,
eggs,
milk.
Vegetables, all of those things without having to pickle them.
Yep.
But obviously, yes, you need a specialised...
So chicken stock.
Yeah.
Bottled chicken stock.
Bottled
so that's been done in a pressure canner.
Yeah.
Because this is a low acid animal product, cannot be done in a water bath, must be done in a pressure canner.
Right.
So yes, and pressure canning runs, again, it's about the right process and the right processing time.
Yeah.
So this is a unit called a Presto. There are a couple of other brands.
Yeah, All American, I think, is another.
Yeah, so these units have to be imported. These aren't made in Australia, but there's lots of websites where you can buy them. You can use them on a standard cooktop or an induction cooktop. Mine's an induction. I use it on a portable induction cooktop on the back veranda.
Which is a good,
which
if you don't want it in the house.
Works really, really well.
But yes, very different to a pressure cooker. A lot of us grew up with pressure cookers with the same kind of twist on lids.
It's the same
different
philosophy where a pressure cooker is creating a vacuum and you're bringing something to hotter than boiling, so it cooks faster. It's the same philosophy, but it's a different piece of equipment. You need to be able to monitor your pressure, which you can't do in a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
You can only do it in a pressure canner.
Right. Yeah.
However, you can cook in a canner.
Yes, that's right.
But it doesn't work the reverse way. So you can use a pressure canner as a pressure cooker, but it doesn't work the other way around.
That's right. Yeah, so I guess there's options for each. I mean, if you were to buy a pressure canner, then you can also boiling water bath in
you can do a
with the lid
water
off.
bath.
So there's options.
It's a big pot, and you take the lid off, and you can just use it. And it's got a special little tray that sits at the bottom.
Yeah.
So you can certainly use it as a boiling water bath. You could even replicate the Fowler's method in it if you wanted to. Just hang a thermometer in it.
Yeah.
So there's certainly lots of different options.
Yep.
And lots of different ways to achieve the result that you want.
And that's really that you're wanting to preserve something that lasts for a long time and is also safe at the same time.
Yeah.
We only advocate methods that are safe.
Yeah.
We don't advocate some of the other methods like oven canning or dishwasher canning or microwave canning. We advocate safe methods.
Yeah.
And these are the three.
These are the three safe methods. So remember your 3 rules. So you've got to have the right ingredients for the right process for the right amount of time. And your 3 processes are hot pack for high acid, high preservative ingredients only. Then you've got a water bath, either boiling or Fowler's, which is for high acid ingredients only. And then you've got a pressure canner, which is for low acid ingredients and requires a pressure canner. So we hope that's clarified a few things. If you've got any questions, please just send us an email. We're more than happy to provide help and guidance and suggestions.
That's right. And always happy to share ideas and the Fowler's method, but also, as Shirley said, happy to answer questions about this too.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.